If someone gave you the opportunity to become God, how would you even interpret that? How can a normal person, a normal human being, become God, or even interpret that in a way that they can actually operate day by day? Well, that's actually the question that gets answered in an anime called Platinum End. Now, this is a very unique anime because it garnered mixed reactions from people, but me personally, I actually really enjoyed it. And it was just something that was different, kind of reminded me of Death Note in a way, even though it's not as popular, of this concept of just having this overwhelming power over normal people. And I just find that really interesting. In this anime, the main character, Kakehashi, has just about had it with life. He's been getting abused for years, and he decides that one day he's just gonna end his life. And he's on top of a building, and he's about to jump and end his life. But as he jumps, he gets saved by a guardian angel who says that she's gonna give him powers in order to make anybody fall in love with him. And you soon find out that fall in love is a very powerful thing, because it's not just one person that he can do this to. He can do this to multiple people and make them fall in love with him. And when I say fall in love, I mean completely obsessed. It's basically like mind control. You can make them do whatever you want to some extent. And when he's granted these powers, it certainly does change his life for the better. He's able to just do so much more. But then he's told by the guardian angel that there's 12 other individuals who have been given the same exact power to make people fall in love with them. And one of them will be chosen as the new god of this world, of the entire earth. And that's very hard to comprehend, but that is what's going on in this series. And the person who's gonna become God either has to be chosen by the other candidates, or it has to be the last person out of them left alive. And predictably, a lot of them want to become God, so they start fighting each other, trying to use their abilities against each other, and then trying to come up on top so that that person can become God. And throughout this whole series, there's a whole bunch of interesting characters that come out. Some of them are really outspoken, and they have the mentality of, I'm gonna do anything that I can to basically be the ruler of this world. And then others have a more low-key attitude to it. They just want to live their life with this newfound power and not be depressed. Like the main character, for example, he doesn't necessarily want to become God. He just wants to live happy because previously he was really depressed and he was on the edge. But now that he has this newfound power, he just wants to live his life happy. He doesn't necessarily want to partake in this death match of who wants to become God. And not to mention that this promise that they were given of becoming God is very suspicious, because I already mentioned it earlier in the video. What does that even mean? How does that even look like? What does your life moving forward is like after that, now that you've become God? And these are all questions that I can say eventually are answered towards the end of the series, but as the God candidates, they have to take this into consideration, because there's a lot of just things that they don't know fully or don't have the answers to. And all of these angels have different rankings to how powerful they are. They have their own unique personalities. And while they're not allowed in directly interfering with the process, they are allowed to, however, have some assistance to some degree, helping their person become God. I feel like the first part of this series was mainly the characters trying to figure out, okay, what's going on. And I also really liked how the world itself also partaked in this, where they were really confused. Everybody in this entire series was just really confused as to what's going on. Why are there people flying? And each of these candidates are also given wings to fly. And they can fly really fast, faster than the speed of a bullet. And to a normal person who's looking at them when they're flying, they can't see the wings, so it just looks like a person that's flying around. The government agencies and everyone are trying to figure out what's going on with these individuals. Why are they able to fly? Is this God talk that they're talking about actually legit, or is it some sort of scam? I like how they included the entire world in this process, but they made it realistic to where everyone's really confused. But the most realistic part is where the world governments are like, okay, how can we incorporate this into our military defense so that these individuals are able to fight for us? So that part I also found really realistic. And during the first part of this series, I feel like all of these characters are trying to figure out exactly how legitimate is this promise that one of them is going to become God, and how real can it be? But they already know to some degree it is real because they have wings, they're flying, they can make anyone fall in love with them, basically mind control them. And that's what they're trying to figure out in the first part of this series. And it's interesting to see how every character navigates this differently. Now, the second part of the series is what I found to be the most interesting. As the characters were talking to each other, and some of them had already died, they really started getting deep into it. And they all had their notions of what they would do when they become God. And I'm not going to get too deep into it, but they all have some drastically different ideas of how the world can be better and what they can do to make the world better. So if they were God, I would cure this many people, or I would make this amount of people not suffer, or I would do something really evil. So in conclusion, this series does have mixed reviews to people who have seen it. I kind of feel like it went under the radar a little bit, and I wish that I had watched it when it came out in around 2021. But nonetheless, I did actually really enjoy it, even though it did have mixed reactions by some people. And it did, to some degree, kind of remind me of Death Note.